We often forget about consequences of going after a real person online. Mr. Suzuki is a real person.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Photography Radio. My name is Tomasz and today you are listening to Beyond the Frame with Olaf Sztaba, where he challenges you to take visual risks and think differently about your photography. Honest, bold and unapologetic. Typical Olaf. Enjoy.
Can you imagine your life without photography? No? Then you will love this show. And it doesn't matter if you're a DSLR, a mirrorless, or a mobile phone shooter. We're here to help your photography grow. This is Photography Radio.
Hello, my photographic friends. How are you? I was planning to talk about something totally different today, especially that the topic of today's podcast is not an easy one. And I have to admit that I have been struggling and thinking very, very carefully whether to talk about this or not. About 3 days ago, I was very close to my decision to pass on this subject and just move on with my life. I knew that whatever I say, it would get me in trouble. But things has changed in the last 3 days and I decided to do it. I think I have to. If you haven't guessed just yet what I want to talk about today here, that's okay. But let me give you a short review, a recap for those of you who are living under the rock. Fujifilm released a brand new camera iteration of the X100 line, the X100V camera. It's a truly, truly great product. In fact, I have to say that's my favorite camera for street photography and for learning photography in general. I highly recommend it. And as with every release, there were a number of ex-photographers who promoted the camera with their videos. And one of them was Tatsuo Suzuki. I hope I'm pronouncing the name right. So, Mr. Suzuki is a street photographer from Japan, and the video, in this video, he's shooting on the street in what you can call, I guess, aggressive way, a sort of Bruce Gilden way. I'm sure what you know what I'm talking about. Of course, many people took offense in this method, and due to some strong, very strong comments, Fujifilm decided to take this video down. Well, what happened next, we all know it. Before I continue, I have to mention something about Fujifilm. I'm not an ex-photographer and I have never been paid by Fujifilm. Having said that, yes, I have a great long-standing professional relationship with Fuji, as well as with other camera companies, because I often test the gear and I love shooting with the gear. And I know some people in the Fuji universe. I have many ex-photographer friends, and I have to say I have a tremendous respect for the Fuji film team, for their passion and drive to create these great products we are all using. But going back to the Mr. Suzuki case, I think that Fujifilm had the right to pull out this video. Whether it was a good decision or not, I don't know. I don't know all the facts, probably I would handle this case slightly differently. But again, I don't know all the details, so I'm not here to judge this decision. And honestly, I don't think there is any great solution here. It's really hard to be a winner in this situation. But this is not what I want to talk about it today. I want to talk about what happened and is still happening after the video was pulled out. First, a few words about Mr. Suzuki. As someone who shoots street photography and teach it, I have to say that I'm not a fan of his methods. I wouldn't feel comfortable shooting this way, not at all. And I would never teach my students to do the street photography the way Mr. Suzuki does. Yes, I guess I have to be honest with you that his methods cross my personal line, but at the same time, I'm not here to condemn him. So, I really want you to know that, okay? I'm not here to condemn him. 2 days after the scandal, if I can call it this way, erupted, I went to his website and I found some of his images to be truly spectacular. Or, as a Bruce Gilden would say, you can smell the street in them. There is no question that whatever ways Mr. Suzuki is using to create his imagery, it works. It really does. And when you combine the fact that his work is really, really good, but his methods are less than ideal here, and many people are against it, it really created a problem for me. It's not easy to answer. I started researching some other art forms, and I found so many examples of artists who created their work doing some highly controversial things. And that itself led me to the question, where do we draw the line? And who is going to decide about it? As someone who came from the communist country, this question itself sent me some chills all over my body. Then I started to think about other ways of doing street photography. There is a school of thought that you should hit the streets in this undercover sort of stealth mode, documenting people and action, and become invisible. I know many of my photographic friends work this way, and well, let's be honest, I sometimes do it as well. But given my tendency to question my own logic, I started to ponder, which one is a more honest way of working? Lurking behind people, pretending you are not there, maybe using a telephoto lens, staying in hiding, or doing what Mr. Suzuki is doing. Think about it. What would upset you more? Knowing that somebody is photographing you from hiding and you don't know about it, or someone who does it in your face? Well, I don't know about you, but for me, it's no longer such a white and black issue, isn't it? In other words, this is not as easy as the internet wants you to believe. Would I want someone jump in front of me and take a photo? Would I prefer someone without me knowing taking the image behind the bench or behind the wall with a telephoto lens? Someone taking my photo without my knowledge. What's worse? Think about it. Again, it's not an easy answer. So in short, more I thought about it, the whole situation, the whole dilemma, I'm less willing to throw stones and judge Mr. Suzuki. To close this very part of this very complex and difficult subject, I think the whole controversy provided us with a great opportunity to have a thoughtful and intelligent conversation about methods and social limits of creating photography and art in general. But did we do it? Of course, this is not what happened. So here's the actual reason why, despite my objections to the idea of discussing this subject and probably getting into trouble, I eventually decided to do it. Because instead of a thoughtful and intelligent conversation, we got a few days of absolute media frenzy, which, and here is the worst, quickly turned into public lynching. Of course, all major photography portals jump on the topic, fighting for the traffic such discussions usually generate, and there is nothing new here. So, well, I guess you can easily accuse Tomasz and me of doing the same with this podcast. I get it. However, in the last 2 days, things got really out of hands. Those who don't always produce any meaningful work, or they don't photograph much, let alone do some street photography, notice this opportunity to, how can I put it, lead the rebellion and go after the photographer. I would say crucify him. Just today I saw words and expressions such as an idiot, creep, stupid, he should be punched. Yes, I'm reading this slowly for an impact. And keep in mind, I'm sharing with you just a mild stuff here. So, what happened with our opportunity to have a conversation about street photography? Of course, joining and participating in mob-like action on Facebook is something too hard to pass by. After all, who wants to talk about photography and imagery? That's boring. When I ask people about composition or light, I just get a few participants from time to time. But if somebody throws stones at someone, accuse, condemn, yell, oh gosh, you will get an army of people jumping on the bandwagon. So, as we could expect, the lynching continues. In the first day of this controversy, most people try to retain, some posture. They actually try to discuss the subject, but be kind of kind, okay? I don't know if it's a good word, but after 2 days, this is all gone. Gloves are off. Recently, today and yesterday, it turned into who can scream and kick the hardest contest. And this is the moment when I lost all my doubts and I had to step in. I'm sorry, but this is not right. Joining the internet mob to go after one photographer you absolutely know nothing about and just to put on display your moral superiority is not cool. Not at all. And I'm not talking about those of you who exchange some thoughts about the ways we create images or the ways we should be working on the street. No, I'm talking about those who entice and provoke, judge and prosecute others without knowing all the details. We often forget about consequences of going after a real person online. Mr. Suzuki is a real person. We are too quick, too eager to condemn, exclude, and cause a total damage without offering any chance for discussion or redemption. Okay, so let me finish with this. A few days ago, I had one question on my mind. Could we justify Mr. Suzuki's methods of shooting street, even if his results are great? I quickly forgot about this important question because this question today turned into much different question. Now I'm asking myself, what's worse? And what should we really condemn here? His way of working on the street or our vicious way of having conversation about street photography and about him? What's worse, my friend? Yes, it is so much fun to join the mob and watch the blood on the street as long as it is not you. Think about it. As always, please go to photographyradio.com and share your views on this subject or the others. And don't forget to drop us a line if you have some questions. In fact, Tomasz created some new really cool links where you can go and ask Karen, Take, me, or Tomasz a question that is directed to us. So, for example, if you like ask me some questions, go to photographyradio.com/Olaf. Okay? I guess I will meet you next week. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Hit subscribe on your podcast app. It would mean a lot for us to have you as our regular listener. Head over to photographyradio.com to drop your suggestion for future editions of Photography Radio or simply to say hello. We would absolutely love to hear from you. In the meantime, have a wonderful night and we will be back with more photography in your ears very soon.